What's up, everyone? Welcome. It's Sunday, May 16th, to be exact. And you're going to be stuck with me for the next 45 minutes. So I hope everyone's Sunday is going very well. Welcome, welcome. I see everyone is joining. Ashley, hello. My Aunt Valerie is here. Yeah, so we got some people watching here. Fantastic. It's going to be an interesting show, to say the least. There's my grandmother. Hello, welcome. Like I said, you got 45 minutes with me. I'm tired. I worked today, even though it was supposed to be my day off, but that's okay. So, yeah. So, anyways. Oh, and Graham, I requested May 30th, Sunday, May 30th off, just to let you know. So I will let you know if I get the day off. Okay. What else do we got? We got so many people watching. Say hello. Don't forget to like and share this video. Sorry, I'm still in my uniform, as you can see. But anyways, where is my sister Kayla? So today is Kayla's birthday. Kayla Fallon, she's always in the chat room. She's always chit-chatting and saying something. I don't see your comments, but that's all right if you are commenting. Yeah. So I'm just waiting for her to come on because I have a birthday message to give to her in the form of a video. So we'll all be watching a video momentarily for my sister. So yeah, as soon as she gets on here, we'll show that video. So only 3 people. Where did all these people go? But anyway, so tonight I have science fiction author John L. Ford, and he's going to be coming on, and he's going to be talking about his science fiction book called Dominion. And I posted the link to his Amazon page where you can learn more about him and view the book. So, yeah, I'm excited to talk to him. Hopefully it goes well like Thursday's show. That was a good show, wasn't it? I really enjoyed talking to Mr. Bellinger there. That was on my show. So it seemed like he was wanting to talk more about Star Trek than his actual book. So, which is fine with me, but we came on to talk about your book. So, yeah. I love meeting new people. So it's always fun. So what's everyone doing? I only have 3 people watching at the moment. 3. I don't understand. I don't see you. Kayla, where are you? I just texted her. I just told her, hello, I don't see you. What's everyone doing? Ashley, what are you up to? Or should I just keep going? Yeah, maybe I'll keep going. So anyways, he should be coming on momentarily. I think I got maybe, 15 minutes before he comes on. So, Ash, it is not raining. Once I hit home, it was not raining at all. So, no, it stopped. So, actually, it didn't even rain up here at all, which is weird. But they're very isolated. So, yeah. I don't see my sister on here. I'm just waiting for my sister. I'm missing my other sister, but she must be driving her kids back to Florida. So I don't know if she's going to be popping on or not. So let me also message her. Yeah, they, like I said, they were all like isolated and everything else. So it was very strange to be going through that. And then on the other side, it's like sunny and nothing happened. So. Just sending my sister a message here. What's up, Kayla? What's up, Sharon? What's up, girl? There's Kayla. Happy birthday to Kayla. So, Kayla, in a couple of minutes, I have a birthday message to you from your friend, Mark. So I'll play your message in just a few seconds. I told everyone it's about 3 minutes long, folks. So bear with me and Mark as he gives his birthday message to Kayla. Okay, so we're going to play the message now. I'm going to share my screen. You know how it goes. Share screen, share screen. So there he is. There's Mark, your friend Mark. And he's got a message for you. So let's go ahead and play that for you. There we go.
Hey, it's your birthday. And no doubt a lot of people have taken a moment to leave a birthday message on your Facebook page. But ask yourself this. Did any of them take the time to make a personalized birthday video greeting like this one? Probably not. And to be honest, me neither. So instead, please accept this generic, recyclable, and thus more environmentally friendly birthday message from me. The very fact that you're receiving this message should hopefully convey to you the fact that I consider you to be a really dear friend, or possibly a beloved co-worker, or possibly a beloved co-worker from a previous job, or that guy in the office who friended everybody, whether he knew them or not, or my cousin, or somebody whose friend invite I accepted when I was brand new on Facebook and was a lot less discriminating about that kind of thing. Maybe you're surprised to see me because you found my Facebook updates to be kind of annoying and hid me from your friend feed months ago. Or maybe you don't
I think you get the point, right? Because it just keeps going and going and going. So, but anyways, there's your birthday message for you, right? Right. All right. So we're gonna stop sharing my screen now, and we're just gonna go back to me. My guest came on, but then for some reason he disappeared. But anyways, there's your generic happy birthday message from some guy. Oh, there he is. So yeah. Yeah, you're welcome, Kayla. So it's always fun. You're 30. You're old, right? That makes me old too. Oh, Jesus. I don't even want to think about it. So, yeah. All right. So, without further ado, I'm going to talk to you all after I talk to John. So, I want to get right to it because I think he's ready. You're ready, right? Yeah, of course he's ready. So, let's bring him on. John?
Hello.
How are you?
I don't know if you can you see me?
I can see you perfectly. Yes.
Okay, great. This technology works.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So how you doing?
I'm not too bad. It's a nice Sunday night. Did a 10K run this afternoon. You know, I just want to warn you a little, Brian, that I am a little new to the whole podcast. So if there's an art to this, I may seem a little artless at times. So just
no, you're doing perfectly fine so far. No, I make it as comfortable as possible because I don't like doing this whole video thing much myself, but everyone enjoys it, so I do it. I just keep in my head that I'm, talking to a friend that I haven't seen in God knows how long, and just playing catch up. That's all that is. So yeah. So I'm going to forewarn you that I have not had the chance to read your book, unfortunately. That seems to be the case with all the authors that come onto my show. There's not enough time for me to read it before you're coming on. So I am learning about you and your book at the same time these fine folks. I don't know if you can see them, the comments.
Yeah. Actually, I can't, but it's okay.
Oh, okay. You should be able to, if depending on how your
Maybe if I put my glasses on, it would help.
streaming.
No, I don't. I just see your image and mine. Unfortunately, I see mine. But
Okay, so there should be a chat button in one of the corners
you know
of
what?
the screen or something.
Yeah, maybe that's maybe I just need to. Um,
You don't have to see them if you don't want to, but it's always nice for the guest to be able to see the question.
Okay, I did. I had it. It defolded to private chat.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha. Okay. Well, there you go. Just in case you.
Kayla Fallon and Amber Follett, Follett, or
yeah.
just to name a few people there.
Yep. There we go. So it's science fiction. I've had a couple of great authors already. Science fiction. So
I caught some of your interview. I guess his last name was Peyton. I'm not familiar with his work. I think his last name was Peyton, but maybe I'm mistaken.
So Daniel Payne.
Yeah, maybe that's his name. I'm
Daniel
sorry.
Payne. Yeah, Daniel Payne is a good friend of mine. I first interviewed him when I started doing this show. Oh my God, 2014. He was my first fantasy author. And then trickled into science fiction because he also writes fan fiction and science fiction. Actually, now 2 science fiction books, because technically I'm the main character of both of those books. So I was written into the book, which is pretty cool.
Wow, that's excellent. That's like a real honor, you know.
It is. Oh, it is. And I have a
because you're immortalized. You have to understand that. You really, in a sense, you're part of the zeitgeist now, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's not the first book I've been written into of his. I believe there are 3 more that I was written into as a character. So yeah, it's an honor to have my name in a book. So it's pretty cool. Plus, I'm a science fiction fanatic, just like he is. So it works out. So I get to be the.
So what kind of, mind me asking, what kind of science fiction? I mean, obviously science fiction can have a pretty big umbrella. So, is he an AI? Is he doing something more like, geophysics? I mean, I don't know. I'm just curious what other science fiction authors are up to these days.
So when it comes to Daniel Payne, for instance, his science fiction is space-based because we're both Star Trek fans. So,
right, I love Star Trek. I was 1987 through 1993. I was a Next Generation.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't go to Comic-Con. I didn't dress up, but that's because I just didn't have the nerve to. I wanted to, but I didn't have
yeah, I don't. I feel you there. I'm a huge Star Trek person, but I've never been to a convention. I've dressed up on camera, but not at a convention. I don't know if I would though, but I would definitely.
Well, I'm always curious. What was your draw to the program? And I'm more than happy to divulge some of my draw, but I'm just curious because some people get into science fiction. I don't want to say for the wrong reason, but an unusual one. They get into it for the humanistic value, which is fine. There's actually a burgeoning form of science fiction called Cyberpunk, which it dabbles the reader up front into the technology that's going to be conveyed, but then it really uses that a vehicle to tell the human story. And it's usually pretty dark and, dystopian and all that stuff. But, Star Trek Next Generation was a really interesting tapestry. It didn't really have that dystopian vibe. I mean, they had conflict, but they always resolved it and it was always happy.
Right.
But it's really set in the canvas of a technological utopia. You know what I mean? And it allowed them to maybe explore more of the human side. So I'm stepping all over your answer for you. I'm sorry, but I did ask you the question, so I should let you finish. I'm just curious what drew you to the program. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm not.
No, you're fine. It's a great question. I've just.
And science fiction in general.
The unknown. I think the unknown. Yes. I liked the stories. I liked just the science fiction of it all. So, I mean, because of these programs, I'm pretty sure we have cell phones, we have tablets and iPads and all that stuff. But you saw it back then, and it was just like this coolest thing that they're using, and tricorders and stuff like we have all that stuff. So, I mean,
well, and I will argue vehemently that a guy in his office, an engineer, like somebody like Einstein, or somebody like an astrophysicist, has to be a science fiction author first, because they see data and then they have to synthesize an explanation for how all this stuff comes together and how, you know what I mean? So they sort of create, their creative juices are flowing there. And then once they've created some plausible explanation, then they go out and then they find the data to support their plausibilities, and then they become more like possibilities, and then they become more like, hypotheses and theory and on and so on. So, I am totally with you. And few people know that part of the cell phone technology is geostationary satellites. Without geostationary satellites, we wouldn't have those. Well, geostationary satellites came from who? Arthur C. Clarke. He postulated those during his, the heyday of his science fiction writing, decades ago. And sure enough, send it through the calculations, and here we are. We've got all these things that are made possible by geostationary satellites, including GPS, and it's we can't have these cell phone networks without it. So, to your point, I mean, you're absolutely spot on right there. That a lot of these visions that we enjoy were visions back then, are a lot, kind of, they might not directly facilitated the things that we need and enjoy today, but they definitely parlayed, So, but it's all part of a creative process, and where science and creativity meet is science, a little bit more discrete than science fiction might be science fact,
Right.
So So in my draw, my favorite characters on the show are Geordi and Data.
Okay.
I pretty much liked every scene that they were in together. And I just really liked how, to the point that you're making about how a lot of the amazing things about those programs then being sort of facilitating or visions of the future and everything, you really felt that when you watched those scientists and engineers in that show, like communicating back and forth. So it really kind of shows, or sort of argues in a sense, that you need to see the human interactivity to really, pull those ideas out of the ether like that, So that's really cool.
And they had a lot of scenes together too. So
yeah, really, really cool. And there were other programs around that Star Trekian sort of thing. I mean, there was Voyager and Enterprise and those other programs too, but I didn't really get into those as much, to be totally honest. There's this new one that my friends are really urging me to try, called Picard, but I have to update my Roku, and I think is that Prime, or which one is that, or is it CBS? I don't know.
So it was CBS All Access, where you had to pay the $5 a month or whatever. And now it's going to be on Discovery Plus, I believe.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I just as soon as I update my Roku, I'm going to do that, and I want to get the Mandalorian too, because I grew up with I grew up with Star Wars as well, which that's a different kind of science fiction altogether. That's what we call science fantasy, but it's
yeah.
So
I did watch that. It was fantastic. So
So anyway, my novel is Dominion. Do you mind if I hold the cover up?
Absolutely.
Because nobody knows. And I understand you having a chance to read it. I'm a new author. This is my first work, and I'm honored to be on your show. And I'm very grateful to any opportunity to expose my work to people, because there's a lot of us out here now. The industry is what it is. But here's the name of my book, Dominion. I'm not hugely excited about the title of this novel. The original, it's kind of an interesting story. The original title of the novel was Dominion. IAN was the suffix on there, not ION.
Mm-hmm.
And I chose that because that is part of like Russian folklore of the goddess of the darkness. And I just pulled that out of like in random internet chat rooms, and like I looked that up, and I just thought it was like really, really interesting, because it sort of hints a little bit to the spirituality that goes on in the novel of mine. And I thought it would be like a really cool, but my publisher didn't know didn't it wasn't clicking with my publisher, and so I just threw out, well, how about Dominion? Then they're like, oh, there you go, right? And they all thought that was great. And then as soon as we got this novel out there, it turns out, Brian, that there's a Dominion in every genre. There's like a Dominion cookbook. It's like there's a Dominion in every single genre of literature. And I'm like, no, that's not what I wanted. I want Dominion back,
So I wonder if that's the reason why I couldn't find. I mean, I saw that book, but I'm like, I don't even know if that's him, because the email that she sent me was just John Ford, and I'm like, there's like 10 John Fords. I'm like, I don't even know which one.
So. I'm sorry, it's John L. Ford.
Oh yeah, she wrote me back and she told me, she goes, it's John L. Ford, and I got the link for the book and everything. I'm like, oh, that one. Okay, perfect. Yeah.
So is it appropriate for me to maybe tell you a little bit about the book now, or do you want to
tell us about the book? That is one of my questions. Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, what got you into writing science fiction, though, if it's your first book? So,
well, yeah, this is interesting. To me, it is. But I was shockingly, I was not a very good student growing up. But I don't know if it was that I lacked the intelligence. I certainly lacked the academic discipline, no question about that. And a lot of what I did was what we call in common vernacular daydreaming. It wasn't like I had ADD. I just had a really adventurous mind, and I was never really focused on what was going on the here and now in the classroom, or homework. I would skip that out. I would always do other things, but I always ended up doing good enough to continue moving along in school.
Right.
And the way I did that is because I would just sort of reinvent everything as I went along. I know that sounds kind of strange, but I'm always thinking up ideas on how things work. Okay. And in nature, say, I'm trying to hypothesize why I'm looking at a thundercloud, for example. Why is that thundercloud billowing up with its nebular plumes and everything and doing its thing? And I would develop this whole sort of hypothesis in my mind how it would work. And I would come to find years later, I was 80% correct as a 9-year-old. And honestly, I went on to become a meteorologist. I have a degree in meteorology. So I am, I'm not just somebody who likes to write science fiction. I actually have a footprint or a foot in science, exactly, and so forth. So the short answer to your question is that I got into writing science fiction because I wanted to write. I have to thank the email era of our technological, how you remember how the internet came on in the mid 90s, and shortly after email became a thing. And I started emailing like everybody else does, but my emails wouldn't stop. They wouldn't end. They would turn into like 2 paragraphs, and I would, ending up with this. It turns out I had this facility for vocabulary that I didn't know I had. And I would end up writing these like loquacious descriptive things just to convey a trip to the store that something interesting happened. And the person would write back, you know what, you should try getting into writing or something like that. You seem to have a facility in that. And then really when I got into writing in like forums online, like science forums, weather forums, and so forth, writing anecdotes about storm experiences or, whatever, people would literally private message me and say, you should try penning these into a novel. You definitely, blah, blah. And I just, for 20 years, I weathered this thinking it was just people being polite. If somebody is a loudmouth and they talk all the darn time, somebody might actually just be polite and say that back to them, right? So, but I finally just realized, maybe there's something there. Maybe I should try. And I really, really like science. So I'm just going to try and do something in that. And I'm like, but I had no idea on what I wanted to write about. So, but then I got struck with an idea, and it was kind of all serendipitous because right around that era, and this is like 10 years ago, I was listening to a PBS program that was talking about all the great science fiction authors, going all the way back to like Wells and, The Time Machine and War of the Worlds and so forth, all the way up through, Isaac Asimov and then, Arthur C. Clarke and Michael Crichton eventually. And, I've read a lot of these authors, Cornell and Niven. I read a lot of these authors, and it was talking about this PBS, and that one of the things that they all had in common, these great science fiction authors, is that they took science of what was happening in that era and they extrapolated a vision of the future, which may, and part of that spectrum is a consequence at a human level, and part of that spectrum is just the awe of what can happen, like as you were kind of intimating earlier.
Yeah.
And I'm totally into that with you. It's like constantly trying to imagine. Can you imagine if this would happen because of all this stuff? So they're really good synthesizers of creating a sort of a vision of the future based on the science of the day. And I was watching this program and I'm thinking, I can do that. I don't know why I felt like I could do that, but I thought I could do that. And the serendipity is I just said, I just don't have an idea, but I know that I can do that kind of thinking, because going back, that was part of my foreshadow, is that I was always coming up with ideas on how I observe things in nature and then finding out I was right later on. You know what I mean? I mean, I just wasn't part of any formal study, but, I think a lot of us do this anyway. We're all human, so we have sort of innate sort of abilities to be, superspective or whatever of what's going on around us and so forth. But, so anyway, so I'm kind of gathering mass, I'm gathering energy into doing something about 10 years ago. And then I'm driving down the road and I'm listening to NPR because I'm an NPR, fan. And they were doing All Things Considered, and they had a scientist, a neuroscientist on at the time. And this person was discussing what are called microtubules. This is going to sound really, I'm sorry. If I'm making you sleepy, I totally understand, but I'm trying to sell this as much as I am trying to explain where the motivation for, but, he was talking about microtubules, and he was describing them as these nanoscale protein, conic-shaped protein accoutrement that go on around the neurotapestry of the cells of the brain. And at the time, we don't really know what purpose they serve. We have a lot of ideas on what they are and so forth. And he was just sort of giving a general basic expose that there are so many different things about the human biology, because that's what it really was about the human biology, that, nobody, we only think we know, but they're always discovering. Now we have this whole thing, that whole realm of, micro physical components and nanophysical components in the body that, we don't know the half of it and so forth. And I'm like hanging on my steering wheel, because I know what they are. I know what purpose they serve in nature, at least the ones that are in there. There's a reason why they accumulate in particular densities around the neurotapestry of the human brain. And I'm like, that's my story. I can write a story about solid state physics and mesh it in with real biology. And those are my real sciences of the day. And I can try and visualize, what are we doing as a culture? We're rushing to find AI, artificial intelligence. So I'm going to create artificial intelligence in the sort of kind of the science fiction framework of the old school types of writers. That's what I wanted to do. So basically that's where my story originates, is in that kind of thinking. And what's really interesting about this, Brian, is that there's a world famous physicist who's getting on in age now. He's in his 90s. His name is Sir Roger Penrose, and he's postulated a lot of incredible things. I mean, he's a mathematician, he's a general physicist, and he's knighted, by the up there in Britain. He's like a big, one of the last big mental guns. I'm sure there's a lot of them out there, but famous ones from that part of the century living. And I didn't know this, but I was like nearly finished with my novel, and about 6 or 7 years ago, and my father, who is he's an MIT grad, and he like spends a lot of time in science periodicals now that he's retired and everything. He calls me up on the phone. He's like, "Weren't you talking about microtubules in your novel and your idea for what you did in your novel?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "You might want to take a look at this." And it turns out that while I was doing all this, Roger Penrose had released a paper in 2000. Well, it was in the late 90s about microtubules, but then there was a follow-up paper in the early 2000s that discussed the possibility that they might be presented in the emergence of consciousness, but it was just a random hypothesis paper that he did back then. But then he followed it up in 2013, which is around the time that I was, putting the final chapters on my novel. So it's a little dated. They actually were measuring certain kinds of dynamic energies going on at that scale, those nanoscales in the human brain, and that they think that it's critical in the emergence of consciousness. And what's crazy is, here I am again. I invented that. That's precisely what's going on sort of in my novel in a roundabout way, but where the scientists in my novel use fiber, they're using a particular kind of fiber optics with carbon nanotubes as biological analogs to these, microtubules in the brain. And this, it tells a backstory. He's a troubled genius, then he's got some romance, he's lost his soulmate, and I mean, there's a lot of other humanistic aspects about the story, hopefully, that makes it a little bit more than just like a blueprint or anything, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so he gets this fantastic idea that he can prove brainwaves by vibrating these nanotubes, use it as an analog to microtubules, because he wants to prove that they are vibrating and that they are emergent in the process of creating like brainwaves, the alpha waves and the gamma waves and the delta waves.
Yeah,
that's right. So he sets out to do this, and he does it. He succeeds, but what he doesn't realize is that when he succeeds at doing that, he actually turns on the first soul, artificial soul, because the origin of the spirit takes place at the vibration of the microtubules, and your brain is basically a quantum feedback engine. It's the only place in nature where quantum mechanics creates a certainty in a realm of a universe where quantum mechanics is uncertain at those scales. It's the only place in the universe where certainty can evolve, and that certainty is you and me. It's our awareness, it's our consciousness. So that's kind of like what's going on in the book. So the book that I wrote actually accidentally has some certain relevancy to it in that sense, but it may not. You know what I mean? So it's definitely a great opportunity to come on a show like this and hopefully describe some of that for people. The story's a bit dry at the beginning because I'm introducing people to the science, and I'm trying to introduce them to characters in such a way. It's like, no, but then it gets a little bit more dynamic towards the end of the story in terms of how the people interact with each other, and then the resolution. There's a couple of different protagonists that have to be resolved throughout this story. So,
okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I think I might have jumped ahead because I think you originally just wanted to ask me how I got into writing, and I'm sorry if I took the reins. I'm a high energy talker. I don't know if you can sense.
It's perfectly fine. A guest wants to just talk. I just let him talk because it's less that I have to, less than I have to do. But yeah, no, it's perfect. I'm just gonna let everyone know, if you have any questions, ask them. I know a lot of people usually have questions. Sure. The good thing about this is that this video never goes away. It's being posted on Facebook and YouTube. Well, we're live now on both right now.
Yeah.
So sometimes I do get questions after the show is already aired and people are rewatching it. So if there's any good questions, I can always send them your way. So how long in all did it take you to write this book?
I wrote it in two pieces. I wrote the first third of it with this wonderful idea that I felt like I had in 2010 through 2011. And then I put it down because I went through some life changes and so forth. And like we all do, right, when we're middle-aged. Dating myself here. And then when I came out the other end of it, I actually went through some unemployment a while ago. Well, actually, it's been 7 years ago. And I spent that year, you look for a job for 2 hours in the morning, and then it's like, what am I going to do for the rest of the day? All right, and I just plowed through it. I wrote. I actually was able, and I got, it's great when you click, I don't know if you do you do any writing yourself, Brian?
No. You
don't? Well, I don't know if you can relate this.
See, the good thing about me, and it's funny that you mentioned that because I do have a friend that's writing a book. We're writing it together.
Oh, great. Excellent.
She's more creative in actually taking what I'm telling her, my ideas and comments and, giving her notes and whatever of what I want to see. She actually creates it and she writes it.
Oh,
so
okay.
I don't have the patience to sit there and write a book. I know it's easy, just writing something down a little bit every day.
Honestly, it's not. I hope I'm not making it sound like it's easy.
Writing is not easy. I don't want to say, but I mean, it's easy for me to, just write a page a day or something. You don't have to write even a whole page or whatever, but I just don't have the time. I don't have the time.
Right.
So,
well, I know.
And then I would most likely want to do science fiction anyways, because it's something I do enjoy, but to come up with the terminology, the research, it takes time. And unfortunately, I don't have that. So, yeah. I mean, if I can have a friend of mine write me in a book, I'm good. Good.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're obviously being an enthusiast is great, and putting yourself proximal to the whole thing is, providing then you like, this is definitely part of the whole team. You're definitely in the team. So
yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, yeah. So the second half, I plowed through that a while ago, and I shopped it around a little bit, but I never really had any illusions about. The short answer to your question before is that I just didn't want to be 70 years old and wish I had written something. So that's when I decided to really put pen to paper and at least do something. So I could just say to myself, I wrote a novel. You know what I mean? I didn't really think anything of it, but my sister snuck it to a publisher in the area, and he really liked it. And Virginia Beach, of all places, and that's my publisher by Wells, Rock Hill Publishing. They've got a lot of great authors in tow down there. They've got one that writes in historical fiction. He's a wonderful writer. We have another science fiction author, Mark Everglade. He wrote Hemispheres, which is a really good book. So I'm just wanted to introduce you a little bit to my publisher too. So if you were interested in looking at my book, you could also just go to rockhillpublishing.com, and I'm sure you could find my title there. My book is also on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles as well. If you look it up, you might have found it or not, but
I did indeed. I did look it up, and I've also posted the link on the Facebook page, so anybody can find it. So, and then of course this video goes on the website, and they can still get the information on my website as well. So, yeah. So, and I'm always looking for more authors. So, hey, spread the word. Have them come on. Yeah.
I don't want to pressure anyone to read it, but I would love it if people did. So if you get it, I know you probably, you're a gracious host to a lot of us authors. You must have like a stack of books that you have to get through. You know what I mean? If you want to pay homage to everybody, I understand if you can't get to it, and I'm a new author, so it's okay. But
absolutely,
I'm humble. I'd be happy to hear your criticisms if you want, because I'm never going to be, what I want to be to the literary arts if I don't.
Right.
I'm that kind of a writer. I'm very open. I'm very earth toned. I can talk to just about anybody. So
yeah, absolutely. And of course, reviews help. I always tell everyone, every author that comes on, if you buy the book on Amazon, Amazon, leave a review, whether it's
Yeah.
good or bad or whatnot. So, unfortunately, when I first started doing this, the authors, or the publishers or those people that book them, publicist or whatever,
Right.
they would mail me a copy of the book. So yeah, before I used to have a stack of books, and it's just like,
Oh, right.
the book would come late. They're coming on in 3 days. I can't really read it, so I don't get
Well,
books anymore. So
I could probably get a copy and send it to you if you want.
I don't
You
mind
know, so-
getting it on Amazon. I don't mind at all. I tell authors
okay.
that all the time. I love reading, so I mean, I do read, so I will grab it and leave a comment. Absolutely.
We do have a question. I want to answer Valerie's question
Okay.
because
Oop, I'm just going to pull it up there. There it is.
are you working on another book? Okay, yes, I am, as a matter of fact. But I'm kind of put that down because our writing group at Rockhill Publishing is currently working on an anthology for the middle of summer. That was, they want to do a cluster of short stories and a novel. Each person might get 3 or 4 chapters to tell a short story, creative. It could be fiction, nonfiction, whatever, about experiences during the pandemic, But so I got to come up with something about that. I was thinking halfway about the zombie vaccine, and that when the critical mass of all of humanity has been taken the vaccine, they'll hit the kill switch, and then we'll all become really obedient zombies, But I think that's kind of used at this point, so gotta come up with something new there. But I am writing working on another book that it's kind of out there again, but it synthesizes the I don't know if you how familiar you are with advanced physics or your audience, so I'll try not to get too whatever, but the general theory of relativity is one pillar of science, and quantum mechanics is one pillar of science. And we know that both these disciplines work because one of them describes celestial objects and the cosmos, and that's how we get, airplanes, right? Airplanes to land on Mars. There you go. But that's how we get these devices to land on Mars, is because of what we know about general theory of relativity. Well, quantum mechanics works because of iPhones, and televisions, and the fact that you and I are doing this right now. These are all quantum mechanic things, and general dynamics and electricity and all this other stuff, right? So, but for some reason, when you put the equations of general relativity into the equations of quantum mechanics or vice versa, you get the universe blows up. So they can't seem to reconcile these two disciplines. Well, the book that I want to work on is about a scientist that makes a breakthrough that figures out the reason why you can't reconcile those two disciplines. And the reason why is because, have you ever heard of the word synergy or synergistics, which is more than the sum of its parts, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, quantum mechanics is like the movie projector, and all of reality and the general theory of relativity and everything we experience in reality and the rules of mathematics and everything is like the projection out of quantum mechanics onto the movie screen. And we are up there on the screen. That's where we are. That's where our reality, our universe is.
Right.
So we can't, what's put out on the screen is more than the sum of the components of the projector. So that's why you can't get those two to reconcile each other, because it's a bottleneck in that sense. So, but he figures out, if you don't like, and this is where the story might get interesting, he figures out not only that, he figures out a God code down at the quantum scales, okay, where if you don't like the movie, you can change the script. And that's when it gets kind of scary in a sense.
Okay.
So I'm working on a novel that will be kind of in that kind of flavor or so forth. So I don't know how that will take off, but I think it's an interesting idea, trying to again use more school what's going on now and doing the future.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I am doing another one.
There you go.
Yep.
It's always.
And what's that?
I said it's always good when authors keep writing. So.
Yeah, and I guess you're never too old. So I was thinking that what am I going to do with it? But it's been a lot. It's been a lot of fun actually to know that you have that out there, and that if you follow your dream, eventually you might be able to do something like that. But,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I just think now, like with the book Dominion, it was a good thing to write about because it has military drones in it. It has the artificial intelligence, and it has the accident of the self-aware AI, and how that fits into the creating the story and conflict and the resolution and everything in there. It's kind of fun. I've been told it would, somebody that read it said this would make a cool movie, actually,
Oh,
And
okay.
I was talking to my publisher. He's like, that's really the dream of all writers in a sense.
yeah.
Now that we live in this cinema era, is that somebody could take those visualizations in your turn of phrase and create, speaking of Gestalt, creating the cinema out of it.
Yeah. My last author that was just on, what's for science fiction. He was in the process of writing a screenplay.
Oh yeah, no, that's something I would love to get into doing. Like, just not tell my publisher. So don't tell my publisher.
Yeah. but he was writing it based on his book, so that way he would already have it ready to just hand over for I don't know, a movie or TV or whatever. I said that's pretty neat. So
yeah, I've thought of that. You know what I mean? But I want to keep going a little bit and see how the actual writing kind of career goes, because I do have my day job. I'm a software engineer.
okay.
I have a mortgage on this nice house of mine or whatever, and I live alone, so I don't have any excuses for not writing.
There you go.
And so anyway, my point is like, that's why I was saying it's not really easy necessarily to write, because I know what you mean by finding time, because you go to work and then you come home, it's like, you know what I mean? I don't want to go see what Colton's doing tonight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah. Nope. I wish I had the time. I do. I mean, she'll text me here and there, got any notes for me, or she'll read what she's gotten so far, and then we'll talk about it and discuss, and then I come up with ideas and she'll write all the notes down, and then
see, you're creative. You got a creative mind. You're coming up with ideas. There you go. So you are a writer.
If it's I think it works only because I'm pretty much bouncing them off of somebody else that's creative, because they get what I'm trying to say, and then she just puts it to words, and I don't know how she does it, because I can't. So it's coming along, but I think it's been 4 years in the process. So life happens, things happen. I used to work with her. She's an old coworker of mine. God, that was 4 years ago.
That reminds me of the lead singer of Death Cab for Cutie. Have you ever heard of that band?
I have not. No.
Oh, okay. They're a popular band around here, but they've had some bigger commercial play. But he actually wrote a side project with another musician who was living in LA at the time, and I think he was living in New York, and they were actually just mailing pieces of songs back and forth for 7 years, and they ended up coming up with an album just doing it that way. So there's lots of different ways to get things done.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, she kind of lives a distance away, so and then COVID, so I wasn't really going anywhere, so but yeah, you heard from her, so we're back on, so hopefully whatever you were saying.
I think not that anyone asked, but I really believe that this whole COVID experience is a techno-sociological experiment. It's probably a necessary step at the evolutionary sense of it as well. Think about this. we didn't do this in 19 and 18 because we couldn't.
Mm.
You see, now that we have the wherewithal, it's masks and distancing and all this other jazz. Human beings are an intrinsically social organism. We cannot survive without the cooperative help that we don't like to admit that we need from one another. We've spent 750,000 years of our evolution in codependency of one another because we are, pound for pound, the weakest species on the planet. We have these giant brains, but we are helpless, without the cooperative brain trust, which then services technologies, which are then bequeathed on to the next generation. And then we build our dominance over the world over thousands of generations. That's how that's happened. But here we are at this state, and we're so far advanced that what do we do to solve this problem? We cut the strings of cooperation by distancing. You know what I mean? By forcing, these kinds of corroboration, which is great. I mean, you're probably in LA or something, and I'm here in Boston, so it's almost
no. I'm actually in the same state as you.
Oh, okay. I didn't know where you were. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then we don't have the goals, so that just totally took my thunder out of what I was saying. But my point is, with the whole zooming, and zooming's great and everything, but it does it's not the same as being in a conference room with the people and feeling the tenor of the moment, and talk about synergy, knowing if you can feel the vibration or the movement. It's almost there's almost a conversation in the room that's going on that doesn't involve actual vocalization, and you can't really get that, I don't think, over Zoom. You certainly can't get it over email and texting.
Right.
So, it's a luxury that we can cut the strings of cooperation at that level, in order to solve this problem. And I think that that's an experiment, because we've never been able to perpetuate the machinery of society without the 750,000 years of evolutionary signaling, driving its course.
Right.
Think about stuff like that. It makes this whole pandemic thing seem necessary and silly at the same time. I don't know if that makes any sense to you.
It does. Yeah. I've heard that before.
It's a conceit. It's almost a conceit, I guess, is a way to do it, a way to look at that. And, that's why I just assume we're not born with masks. And I think that, plagues and pandemics and diseases have been part of human history since 750,000 years of our evolution, right? All along they have. And those never wiped us out. Through the vicissitudes of holy gratuitous chance and evolutionary, whatever, we might have evolved masks naturally if we needed them.
Right.
Okay. So it seems kind of anachronistic to me, in a sense that just because we think we know we need all these things, we need all these things.
Right.
Now the science is still indisputable. You wear a mask, it blocks particulate matter. That should, in theory, slow down the spread. Distancing also, you limit targets, the virulency, the pathogenicity rather declines. I mean, that's irrefutable, but it just seems to like how much of it is actually necessary. Is the histrionics of it really necessary? That kind of thing. So, I don't know. As far as the short story goes with the anthology and a pandemic point of view, I'm actually thinking about writing something like an op-ed. Do a little bit more research and make those kinds of ideas a little more refined than what I just presented. I mean, I'm just sort of trying to get it out there, because I know that we only have a half hour here or whatever. So I'm trying to. Oh, actually, we've run over. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. So yeah, most of my shows are an hour. So yeah, we're doing good. We're doing good here. So yeah, I'm just gonna throw it out there again. If anyone has any questions, ask them now. Last chance. So yeah, I'm on the other side of the state, completely on the other side of the state. I'm in Western Mass. So
okay, all right, yeah,
I guess I live in the Berkshires.
Yeah, I got friends. I'm over here in just outside of Boston in a town called Ayer, Massachusetts.
Okay.
And well, it's cool. So we're both New Englanders.
Yes. Yeah. I'm not originally from Mass, but close.
Neither am I. Not even close. I'm actually from Michigan.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I was born in Battle Creek, Michigan, cereal country, as they say, and I lived in Kalamazoo until I was 14, and then so I've lived out here in New England ever since most of my life. So I consider myself a New Englander. When I go back there, I'm like, oh my God, get me out of here, you know. Can I stay for a small time?
Yeah, there is a difference, especially when you leave Massachusetts. I've noticed. So
Are you? So you've been doing this since 2014, then? Don't mind me asking.
So February, was it February? February. I went live February. It was under a different name then. I had a co-host, and she was with me for 4 years, I think. So last I don't even know. Last February, I think, was my first solo run without her. So, and now this is my second, technically, season, I guess is what you would want to call it. So, yeah. Yep.
So you've have you had other science fiction authors on?
Oh my God.
I know you. I saw the one interview. I just don't. I haven't had a chance to really dig back in your background there. So.
I've had a lot of, but I always didn't do the video. So when I started out, I was doing online radio. So I didn't get to see who you were. I only heard you because you were dialing in a phone number to talk to me.
Okay.
And then people would just tune in by clicking a link on Facebook.
Yeah, that's the early podcast culture was all like that, wasn't it? It was all
which you can still do. I mean, it was fantastic. And then she just pretty much, it was her idea. She goes, "Oh, you should do video." But she didn't want to do video. She wanted to be the voice behind it. So it was kind of difficult to do. And then I kind of turned her to do it. And but anyways, so
I like this particular interface you got here. It's cleaner, I think, than Zoom actually.
So yeah, this is StreamYard. I just happened to come across it. For a while when I first started, I was just doing Facebook Live. But then you can't invite people. Like you could have people on there, but I would have to use my own Facebook and not the Facebook page for the show. So it was very weird that you couldn't invite people on. So for $25 a month, the features on this is crazy.
Yeah,
it's well worth it, and yeah,
cool.
It's very nice.
I mean, if you have any kind of like I don't know what's the word for it when you do like a mail list, yeah, like so because I'd be curious when you get an authors, maybe if you get any authors that more impressive than me, for example. I would love to hear some of those interviews. I just don't. I mean, do I go on YouTube and just type your name?
I have. I can't even remember how many authors I've had on, and I've had all kind of genres and even different types of guests, not just authors. I've spoken to motivational speakers, musicians. Was just 2 weeks ago. How they got cut in, I have no idea. But and then everything paranormal, romance, people in movies or TV, or they were an extra in something, and I'm hoping when the real pandemic subsidence happens, we can get into doing things like, I know in Florida there's a big writing expose that happens down there for science fiction and so forth, and they have podcasters and stuff down there, because they want to get their foot in the door and get their cards into authors' hands and so forth. And I'm so new to this. I feel like I've missed out on a whole, I have all this catching up to do. So that's why, I don't want to be a stranger to any of these kinds of, opportunities and sources and so forth. So if you have any cool like authors or whatever, I can go in there. No, if I go onto do you have like a website and all that? So the website's new, unfortunately, because I had to get rid of the other one. There really wasn't much on there. So I've only posted recent people now on there because I just did the website like 2 days ago. But on YouTube, I mean, you can.
Yeah,
I started doing just me, which was last year. They're all on there because I have a YouTube channel. So
yeah, why do your own website if you got all these, accesses to,
yeah, I mean it's a free website, but it kind of I've noticed that people really, and I'm not here for numbers or viewers or anything. I mean, I could have 2 people watching. I don't really care. It's a hobby. I'm not getting paid to do it, so it's worth it to me. But I did the website just because it looks better sometimes when you see a website.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can go back.
Yeah, the only reason why I was asking is just because if you had like a library, like a URL that I could go and it just is a quick, who you talk to and the topic, and then I can click and listen to some of those.
Generally in the description, I try to put in what type of author it is. I don't think I did it for this one. I think I just put your name in this one, but in the description it does say science fiction author. So most of the time you'll see science fiction author, blah 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 is on, or whatever. I don't have like an index, but you are probably the first author that I've talked to that is really science. I mean,
science, like hard science.
Like
I mean, I don't have anything against the subgenre of fantasy, which is couched into science fiction and fantasy, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I don't have anything against that. I love Star Wars, but I consider that more fantasy than I do science.
Right. Yes.
I think real science fiction has to be like, what if we did this? And you're telling a story around the what if we did this? And that's kind of like what you were talking about early on in the interview about you got into Star Trek because what could happen?
Right.
I mean, that's kind of the science fiction-y hardcore stuff, but I'm not like the whole fantasy thing. I think that's a harder write. I mean, but yeah, so that's cool. So what I'll do, over the next few days, I'm just curious what other interviews you've given in the past. And I think Amy from Rock Hill Publishing and so forth, did she set this up?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Excellent.
Yeah. I thought the interview was for her because that's the way it came across until I scrolled all the way down to the bottom. Yes, my client is an author. His name is, and here's the name of the book, and that was it. So I was like, okay. But I think the only other, scientific person that I had, that was years ago. I can't even remember his name, but he was more into the science behind UFOs and extraterrestrials.
Oh, that would be something that would be really cool to get into, wouldn't it?
I had the
maybe
chance,
you didn't like.
I had the chance to meet him. It was funny because he was talking about things in science or things that we have, almost like Star Trek. The things we have were because of UFOs visiting. The technology.
Right.
He was just saying stuff that I had absolutely no clue what he was talking about, but it was fascinating because I don't know really, I like science fiction, but all the techno babble I just wasn't understanding. So there's a annual UFO festival in Exeter, New Hampshire.
Oh man, where there's never probably been a sighting of anything. I've never heard of anybody.
Well, that was apparent, according to them, it was the first ever sighting of UFOs back when, and blah 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 blah. So they have this, and it was like the 5th annual that he was telling me about. I'm going to be there. I'm a key speaker and everything. You should come up. And I'm like, well, that's like 2.5 hours for me. So we all got in the car. We drove up there, and I never met him. I don't even know where he was. They had speakers, but his name wasn't on the list. And it was interesting. The whole town got into it. So, they were decorated with aliens and UFO stuff. And I think they had a band that came through down the street. And it was interesting, to say the least. It would have been nice to at least meet him. So I'm going to have to look up his name. It was a weird name, but
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, it seems to me that just this limited, like, so I'm like about a year now of exposure, actually 9 months of exposure into this side of having been published and so forth, and meeting other authors and so forth. And it seems like us hardcore science fiction authors are relatively rare, actually. It seems like there's a lot more on the side that are kind of more fantasy bent, you
Yeah.
know? Now, I'm not speaking for the gentleman that you interviewed. What was his name? Peyton.
Daniel.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I his name
Yeah.
again. I haven't read his work or anything, so I don't know. But just listening to what you're saying, that hardcore science types that you've had have been relatively rare. I think we're out here. We're out here, though. I don't know. There's a few of us.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've gotten more. Yeah, I've got more fantasy. That space stuff and creatures and that kind of the science fiction, the fantasy part of it. So yeah, which I don't mind. It is what it is. Whatever you write, I'll talk about. So yeah.
All right. Well, listen, I'm thinking about moving on for the evening now, because I got something coming up later on here and I gotta get going. But Brian, it was really great. I'm so glad that you had me on and everything.
Absolutely.
Definitely appreciate the opportunity to describe my book again, whatever.
Yes.
And, anybody, just so people can remember what that looks like. If you're into reading about hard science and the wonders of what could happen when we delve into like real sciences and so forth, it's a fun read for that kind of approach.
There you go. Absolutely. And I'd love to have you back on. So, when you're ready or you finish something or it's about ready to get published, that's usually when they contact me, when their next book is about ready to come out.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because I was thinking that like when I get closer to having the IQ of God ready to be published, then that would be something that maybe we should be doing before we actually publish the book. You know what I mean?
That's usually how it's supposed to go. But
yeah,
which is fine.
I'm not criticizing anything.
Yes,
I think exposed to it, and I keep thinking to myself, I should be on these shows before. I should have been on doing this 3 years ago. That's what I mean.
I was here, but yeah. All right. Well, thank you for coming on and talking about your book and everything else in between. It's been fantastic. So yeah, I'll wait for that email for when you're ready. So
yeah, and then and if we ever get to an expose or a Comic-Con or something like that, and you're going to be there, we should just bop an email back and forth and whatever. And
because they happen in Boston, so I'm surprised you don't go. It's rare that they happen in Boston, but that's the one I would want to go to. Either that or New Jersey. But
yeah, well, right. And I got relative in New Jersey too, so it's not a problem for me. But I'm just but like I said, I've been kind of not really in the culture, but I am now. So I feel like I have some catching up to do. And believe me, if one hits Boston, send me an email like, John, you know what I mean? Go around, we could check out some other authors, science fiction authors, and like get in some crazy, philosophical discussions and so forth like that, where the new ideas are born,
Absolutely. I can't wait. So
thank you for your guests for listening in and so forth. Thank you to all them as well, and I will definitely extend the word to my crew that or to my other authors at the to check you out. If you're interested in doing other genres as well.
Oh yeah, I've done them all.
Okay, I'll definitely.
Oh yeah. So,
all right, thanks a lot, Brian.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, and bye-bye now.
Bye. All right, everyone, that's it. Great interview, right? So I've already posted his Amazon link on the Facebook, and check out his book. What more can I say, right? So it was a great interview, I think. It went over. But anyways, I'll see everyone Thursday. I know that there's a guest on Thursday, so I'll see everyone on Thursday. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and share. If you're watching from YouTube, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button there. So that way, you know, when I go live, you'll get the notification. So yeah, thanks everyone. And that's it. Have a good week. Because I know I probably won't, but that's all right. No, I will. All right, everyone. Have a good one. Goodbye.